Hi, and welcome to part 2 of our recipe app. So now we are now working with our back end. So we are going to close our front end and concentrate on our main activity. So the first thing we need to do is create a Java activity which we're going to call food, that is going to assist us to pass the food item. So food has name, it has a simple description and an image. So we are going to create a new Kotlin file. Then we can just come and say we want a class. So the class, we can just call the class food. So once we do that, we are going to give our class values. So the first one you're going to say is var, then we pass. So we say name. Then the name is going to be a string, and we don't want it to be null, so we'll say null. Then we have the description of the food, so we can say var. We can just give a description, then we can say string, and then we say equals to null. And then lastly we can say image, so we come and say image. The image you're going to pass it as an integer, then we ensure it's also not, it's a nullable value. So we have that as our values. Then now we are going to create a constructor, generate one. So we'll simply right click and then we'll say generate. Then we want to generate a secondary constructor. We want to generate for name, for description, and for image. Then we can say okay. So we have a constructor for this all. So that will be able to create for us the food class. So when we want to pass a food item, we don't have to create it afresh. We just pass the food class. We say the name, the description, and the food. So now we are ready to come to our main activity dot Kotlin. So now in our main activity, we are going to create a variable, a variable which we are going to call the list of food. So this variable is going to be an array list that will hold for us all our items. So we'll start and we'll create a variable. So we can say var, then we can say list of food. So we can say variable list of food, list of, then we say food, then we can say equals to, then we want to create an array list of the same. So we'll say array list and then what do we want this to have? The food class, and that's it. So we have our list of foods. So now in our list of foods, we can now come and add the list of foods inside our onCreate function. So it will be quite simple. So we'll simply say in our list of foods, it's going to be list of foods, then we say dot add. So we want to add an element. What element do we want to add? We want to add food. So we want to add food. So you see for food here, you have to pass the name, you have to pass the description, and you have to pass the food. So for the name, you can simply come and say, we can pick the first one. We have maybe beans. So you have name as beans. So description, so you're going to give a description of your food. So you can say maybe beans is a protein found which is very healthy, so forth. So you're going to give just a good description of what your food is about. And then lastly, you're going to give the image or the ID of the image. So we'll simply come and say for food, so I'll just move this so that you can be able to view well. So for image, it would be simple dot drawable, then we pass beans. So the first one you want to pass beans. So you have that. So you can now come and add your next list of items. So you can say list of foods, then you can say dot add, then you pass there what you want to add. So you're going to do this for our 6 items. So you can say the remaining are 4, so you can do 1 2 3 4. So you have that. So you can remove 1, then you pass the name. So for name, you can say maybe now chicken, but if it's a string, definitely you know you have to put your quotes. So you say chicken, comma, then you do your description. So you say DES, description, which is string. So your description is going to be chicken is a protein. Then you just give more details. We want the description to be quite a full description, so ensure you type as many words as possible inside your description so that when you load your app, it's a bit heavy. Then you can say R dot drawable dot, then we pass the image for chicken. So the image which is there. So depending on what you are describing, the list of food you are describing, you're going to do differently. So the other one we have is coffee. So you can say maybe espresso. Then the description, you can say this. You can say espresso is a type of coffee. Then you do your more explanations of the food. Then you can do R dot drawable dot, then you pass the image of the same. So you ensure you do for all of them. So we'll do for all of them, then we'll now get back to the items that we've added. Okay, so once you finished adding your list of foods and explaining them, I've said you give it quite a good explanation in the description and placing in the drawable. Then now we can go to the next step of our code. After creating the whole list of food, we're going to come in and create an adapter. So this adapter is now the one going to load for us all these items into the class as we had discussed earlier. So now we can simply come and create a class for a food adapter. So we'll say class, then we say food adapter, then we pass the base adapter, so we pass the base adapter, base adapter, and then you'll create that. So what you come and do, just as we had done earlier, you come in and then we'll say implement members. So the members are the ones which are going to have all this. So we create members for that. So you press Control and select all the items, then you'll say okay. So you do the implementation of the members. So that one I'm sure we had done it in class and you are aware of how to do it. Then now we have the constructor. So we are going to create a constructor, generate a simple constructor here, which we're going to say generate. Then we're going to generate a secondary constructor, which we're going to edit out a bit later as we pass a few items. So now we'll inside our adapter we are going to create a variable for list of food. So you can come and say list of food. So you can just come say list of food, and then you're going to say this is an array. So you can say this is an array. So you specify it as a var. So you say var list of food, then we say this is an array list. So you say we want an array list and we want to pass food. So we are going to have that, our list of food. And then the second thing we're going to create is going to be the context. So you're going to create the context. So you can say var, then we come and say context. So we just call context, and then we want to create a context. Want to create a context, and then we'll say that it's nullable, then we say equals to null. So now we can come and generate a good constructor here then that contains the context and contains the food. So you can footer that. Now that we have our two variables, you just come, then we'll just right click and say generate, then we'll say secondary constructor with the list of food, and also it contains the context. Then we'll say okay. So we have that. I hope I'm very clear about what we do. So you create a variable, then now you'll generate the correct constructor for that class, which contains the context and contains the list of food. So that's good. So now we can now come and override our functions. So you just come. So we said the get view, this is the bigger picture, we are going to do it last, and the other items that we want to pass. So we'll start with the get count. So for the get count, we're just going to, so we remove that, and for the get count, we are going to do a simple return. So we'll say return, and then we're going to return a list of food. Then we say dot size. Quite simple. So that's for the return, for the get count. Then we have for get item ID. So we'll say here we want to return we return the position as discussed there above, we had discussed it. Then we say dot to long, and then for the get item at position, so we remove the one which was generated, and then we are going to return. So we'll say return so we'll say return, then we'll say list of food. Then what do we want to return at what? At the position that is there. So we return list of food at position. So we have that placed there nicely. So now the next part is placing the images or working with our override to pass to view the image of the items. So this will be quite simple. So we are going to say val food. So So it's going to be val food. So we create a value, so we'll say val food, which is going to be this dot, then we say list of food at a particular position. Sawa. And then we are going to do now an inflator as we are done in class. So you'll say val, then we'll say inflator, so you can just say val inflator, then we'll say val inflator. So let's create it as a variable. It's not going to change. So var, we can say inflator, you can do just inflator, then you can say equals to, we call our context, then we say dot get system service, then we'll say pass our context, then we say dot service layout, so we want the layout service inflator, then we'll say as layout inflator. So we have our inflator, we've called it, then we'll say it's going to be, we're just getting the inflator. That's a simple code for asking us to get the inflator. Then now we are going to create a food view that is going to view the food for us. So it's going to be simple. So we'll say var, then we'll say food view. You can create a food view, then we'll say equals to, so inflator dot inflate, so it's simple inflator dot inflate, that is pop in this image in short. Then we'll say we want to pass the ticket, so we'll say r dot layout, what do we want to pass? We want to pass the layout for the food ticket. Then we ensure that it's a nullable, so we pass null. So you have food view as inflator.inflate, then we pass the ticket that we want to use, the food ticket. Then lastly, now you're going to say set the image, so it's going to be simple. So we'll say now our food view, we'll say dot, then you come and simply say iv food image. That was the ID we used for our food image on the other side. So iv.food image, then we can say dot set image resource. So you can say set image resource, and then you're going to pass food dot image, and then you have your quotes there. And then now you have placed the image. Then the next thing you're going to pass is the text, the food view text name. So you can simply come and say food view, then you say dot. Now what do I want to place? iv food text, so it's iv text name, then you're going to set the text, so it's a set text, so we're just going to say text. So we don't use set, so you just say text equals to, then it's going to be food dot name, and for it not to have the error or the nullable, we just put our quotes. And lastly, we simply do our return. And what do we return? We return the food view that has a ticket. So we'll simply say return what? Food view. And yeah, so that's it. Quite simple. So we'll simply return the food view, and that's our simple get view. So we can simply try and execute this and see how now our text looks like. So at this point you can now try and run your application and see what result it's going to give you. So I'll see you in part 3, where we do the last part of the app, which is the description, the food description. So I'll see you next. So try load this and see how now your app will look like. See you. Bye.